Good evening. Welcome to Inside Asia. Our guest today is Dr. Amara Pongsapit, Secretary General of the Office of National Human Rights Commission of Thailand. She will discuss the Asia-Pacific Human Rights Institution and also the overall conditions, including the process of writing this year Human Rights Report for United Nations Human Rights Council. Thank you very much, Ajahn Amara, for joining our program. Your organization just hosted the 16th Asia-Pacific Forum on National Human Rights Institute. Tell me, what were the outcomes?
Last week, we had the 16th annual conference as well as the biannual conference of the Asia-Pacific Forum, of which we call APF.
Yeah.
And APF consists of 17 members. And so the first day we had business meeting, and the second and third day was more thematic issues. And we worked on business issues, admitting new members, etc. But on the second and third day, we agreed on some of the thematic issues. The first one being that we need to collaborate more between civil society and National Human Rights Commission of every country.
Which in each member of the...
In each country, as well as regionally.
Yes.
And we also have to work with the Human Rights Council of the UN, for which Thailand happened to have to report, the UPR report. And so it became very clear that the relationship between the Human Rights Council and National Human Rights Institute will be more and more important.
But this is something new. It's a new element because United Nations Human Rights Council just passed a resolution only in June that recognized the work of Human Rights National Institute in Asia Pacific, right?
Correct. This was because before Human Rights Council, we had Human Rights Commission.
Oh, that's right.
And in the commission, although they start recognizing National Commission, but they have been lumping Human Rights Commission, National Human Rights Commission with civil society.
Oh, I see.
And so with the Human Rights Commission coming up at the UN level, they have 3 other activities for which Human Rights Institutes are supposed to be involved with, and that's one of that is the Universal Periodic Review.
Yes.
And the second one, reporting on the situation of the treaties for which the state has signed. And the third one, the Human Rights Council may send special rapporteur to any country to look at human rights violations issues.
What were the news member of Asia Pacific Forum this year?
We just adopted the Bangladesh National Human Rights Commission as associate member. This happened last week.
So ASEAN remains still 4 countries that have national institute.
Yes, since we have the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission, which we call AICHA,
yes.
We call the National Human Rights Group in Southeast Asia as Southeast Asian Forum, CNF, Southeast Asian National Human Rights Commission Forum, CNF.
So how many countries at the moment?
We have 4 ASEAN countries.
That's right.
Plus Timor-Leste.
Yes.
But during our conference, we heard that Myanmar just
set up
a national human rights.
But it has not yet applied.
No. And so if any country set up a new national commission, they have to set up according to the Paris Principle,
yes,
for which the General Assembly had adopted.
So you have to meet certain criteria.
Yes, of being independent, of representing diversity of the society, as having separate budget and separate office.
Has the Asia Pacific Forum reject any membership that's been applied in the past?
Yes, actually, we have a system, the accreditation system. Those who fulfill or fit with the Paris Principle criteria, we call an A status commission. And those who cannot fulfill all criteria, we may call them associate member, or we call them a B status. And those who does not fit used to be called C, but now we don't call.
I see.
We don't give.
So there's 2 tiers. So can you give me assessment of this 17th Human Rights National Institute? Just some clear idea. How do you compare them? You know, what are the major differences and discriminations?
So different. Now we are thinking of having sub-regional because we have Southeast Asian Forum, CNF, which has ASEAN character, and we have the Pacific Group, and we have the Arab world, which is
part of Asia Pacific. Yes. In this case.
Asia Pacific start from Arab all the way to
east of Suez to Peninsula of Kamchatka, in other words.
Yes, very large.
Yeah.
And so we will need West Asia, we will have East Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Group.
This is something new, or is this in discussion for some time?
It's in discussion, but informally, because actually we came about since 1993.
That's
and
right.
Thailand came in
1997. The national
1997 constitution.
Yes, that's right.
But the office did not become a reality until 2 years later.
That's right.
Yeah.
So just give me some pertinent issue highlighting the difference between the sub-regional.
West Asia approach to human rights is more unclear because the nominations of the commissioners are different from country to country, and they have their own set of rules. The culture is totally different. And for Southeast Asia, I think we are more advanced in that we are more democratic in general and more open-minded. We have more freedom of expression. And for the Pacific, they're still very small countries, small island countries.
I see. But you did not mention a particular region, Northeast Asia. I saw Mongolia. So
yes.
Can you give us some impression of Mongolia vis-a-vis country like Taiwan or also Japan?
For Northeast Asia, we have Mongolia and Korea, the 2 countries only.
How about Japan?
Japan has no national commission.
Any explanation?
No, I have not heard. And of course, China is thinking about it, but Taiwan would like to come in. And because of one nation policy,
yes,
it has been very difficult. In fact, the Taiwan ombudsman came to our meeting as observer, and they wanted to join if APF allow.
But it is possible if you create a special category for membership, because Taiwan is pretty sensitive issue. Joining, this kind of organization, even though it sometimes is tracked too.
Right. So if we were to consider that, we have to set up a working group to look into the details and the possibility.
One of the topics is the right to development. Have you settled, how to promote? I have seen widespread discussion during the session.
For right to development, we have lunch discussion, 3 groups.
Yeah.
One is on media and development. The other one was human rights defenders and development. And the third one being right to development vis-a-vis the business and infrastructure projects. And the debate has been diverse. And that's why we need to separate them into 3 subgroups.
So how is Southeast Asian's country progress on this particular issue?
We're just starting. In fact, the APF as well as the ICC. ICC is the International Coordinating Committee of NHRIs. That's the global coordinating committee. They have decided that we will follow the Declaration of Right to Development, and for the next few years we will work on business and human rights.
Yes.
And in fact, Kofi Annan, when he was Secretary General, he commissioned a paper on business and human rights. And now all regions of the world, the Americans,
Yeah.
the Africans, Asia Pacific, and Europe, adopt business and human rights as the theme for the next few years. And for Asia Pacific, we will have our meeting in
To
Seoul
determine the priorities.
to look at the guidelines.
I see,
because Kofi Annan commissioned John Ruggie
I see.
to do some paperwork
Yeah, he's a
for
Harvard
us.
professor.
In October, in fact, I think it's the 10th, 11th, 12th, something, we'll be in Seoul to look at guidelines
see.
and work together.
Why business? Because human rights and business is interlinked much more than other groups. You have disadvantaged group, you have others,
It's
violence.
It is interlinked, and it has been contradictory. The role of multinational
Correct.
firms, development projects impacting on community. So it affects community rights as well as personal rights, economic rights of the poor, cultural rights, all kinds.
But Aisha has not yet taken up this theme at all, from what I have followed.
They start discussing it a little bit, but right now they focus more on women and children, human
Correct.
trafficking,
Migration.
But migration also is connected to business and human rights as well.
But it's cross-border in nature.
Yes, very-
Which is different because you're talking about big corporation which has a very huge project and impact on the livelihood
also
of those.
cross-border.
Oh yeah, that's true, across borders.
Yes, because cross-border issues are becoming more and more important. And so if you have multinational firms doing business cross-border, impact on labor, migration, impact on the poor communities, environmental pollution, etc.
So there must be a lot of talk on corporate responsibilities then.
Yes, the UN also have a global compact, but that's from the business point of view, but we will look at this issue from the human rights point of view.
So the era of cheap labor is forever gone?
They start talking about moving from one country to another, but then we have to tell our neighbor that they need to be cautious about the migration movement as well, and the investment from big companies impacting on the poor.
So how do you see the overall situation of migrations of labor in this region? Related to Thailand, you can, because you are familiar with this issue.
Well, for Thailand, we are in the middle. We are receiving countries,
Yes.
and we are sending countries, not
Also.
as much. Yeah.
And we are transit.
We are transit. And so the issue of human trafficking, which usually focus on women and children, need to focus on labor trafficking as well.
Yes.
And when we look at migration issues, our CNF, Southeast Asian neighbors, are also very much interested. Philippines and Indonesia are sending countries, and so they want to become involved. They want to benefit from sending labor.
Overseas.
Overseas. But Malaysia is receiving, and Singapore is receiving, and they want to look at the issue of migration from a receiving country.
So Thailand benefit the most because we are both.
Yes, and we need to be working from both sides and look at the pros and cons.
So can you give us some issues that Thailand has done well and issues that Thailand need to improve?
Well, in terms of labor migration, we used to be not as open, and we use immigration law to control labor.
Yes.
And now that everyone agrees that we need to import labor, we start looking at labor movement from the labor law point of view as well. And this opened up a new dimension.
Give a proper protection and rights and all that.
Yes, and which is, I think we advance because we look at the economic, social, cultural rights. We look at birth certificate. We give birth certificate to anyone born in the country, regardless of nationality. And with the new law, we give education
for free.
For free and help.
Not many countries is willing to do that, you know.
Yes, so we are ready to draw up a new labor law, and as ASEAN labor.
ASEAN is pushing for migrations Bill of Rights. I think that's something new.
Yes, and so we have to really study it very carefully, and how much we gain or lose. From other countries, it's only one-sided. Either they send out labor or they receive. But for us, they're both dimensions.
Yeah, this actually caused a huge dilemma in Thailand policy towards transnational migration labor movement. Actually, it's involved into all kinds of labyrinth political issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have to look at labor issue in terms of trafficking as well, the fishing industry.
Yes.
And
it's the worst. We are the worst country in to commit violence, crimes against foreign fishermen, particularly Cambodia.
Based on the U.S. report.
Based on U.S. report. And for tips, right, the report that came out.
Yeah.
Can you discuss a little bit more Thailand as a transit point? What can be elaborated? Why Thailand transit point?
Well, the transit is mostly in terms of women and children.
I see.
Because people came in from Myanmar and Laos and Vietnam as well as Cambodia or southern China, and they come here and they are agents in this.
Oh, I see.
In
smuggling
Thailand.
rings. And
I'm not proud to say that we have been the hub of human trafficking, and then they move on to Europe.
I think one of the reasons is that Thailand is a very open society. Anybody can come, including ill intent elements, you know, like terrorists and all that. So, given your experience, what sort of a recommendation you would like to give to ASEAN, given the fact that ASEAN is working on the migrant worker rights?
I think each country will have to study the laws of each country and then start comparing notes and try to develop a joint collaborative set of rules so that we can exchange labor more fairly and
up to the international standard.
Yes.
But there is no shared vision, shared program, shared standard at the moment.
I have not seen, and I think both AICHA and the CNF, Southeast Asian Forum, have this in their strategic plan.
Their strategic plan, okay. Now, can you give me some of your views about the corporations among 4 existing human rights national institute, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. How close they are and what kind of issue you are collaborating?
We have been very close. Once we set up, we were 4 countries with national commissions, and this was before AICHA. And so we have been receiving assistance from donors and UN regional offices to try to put the 4 of us together to work and try to move forward, hoping that this will be the beginning of AICHA. But when it turned out that AICHA is something different, the 4 national commissions still continue working together. We received support from EU to do projects together, and so during the past 5 years we have been working on 5 projects, collaborating, comparing notes. One was on migration, the other one human trafficking, of course, human rights education, and the economic, social, cultural rights.
I see. After this, what's the plan for the National Institute? Will you provide this input to Aisha? Or what is the relation at the moment? Is there any conflicting, competitive syndrome?
Yes and no. We at CNF had worked together and we become good friends, and so for the future we have developed our 5-year strategic plan for the 5 countries, and with Aisha as our comparative group, I guess. Aisha is new, and so they still need to work together and find their directions and see what they want to do. But both Aisha and Southeast Asian Network of National Commissions need to work together because we are covering the same geographical area and we have the same issues to tackle. Right now, Southeast Asian Forum have in our strategic plan to work with Aisha. We need to try to collaborate with them. And since Aisha is newer, they need more time to set up. But hopefully within next year, we should have opportunities to meet.
Yeah, you have not yet met each other.
We have not met yet.
Yes.
Yes.
So in a way, Human Rights National Institute is much more independent and freer in assessing, pick up the issue, file reports.
Definitely, independence is the theme.
That's right.
The national commissions need to be independent from government, and the role is to protect, promote human rights. And so if there is anything which the government, if the government violates human rights, then it's the duty of the national commissions to bring that to the public.
I see. You mentioned protect before promotion. That is not ASEAN's approach. ASEAN approach promotion first rather than protect. I think it would take some time. I hope you enjoyed the first portion of our dialogue with Dr. Amara on general human rights of the Asia Pacific and Thailand. We will come back tomorrow. Thank you. Good night. สวัสดีครับ